Jenny, and welcome to today's training where I'm going to unlock some of the reasons why you're not getting the results you want or deserve right now with your weight loss, your health and your fitness. So here goes. What do lacking in energy, brain fog, poor memory, grumpiness, mood swings, depression, weight gain, belly fat, joint pains, aches and stiffness, lower back pain, period pain, insomnia, low bone density, high cholesterol, bloating, IBS, flatulence, constipation, reflux, lost libido, vaginal dryness, overwhelm, anxiety, heavy and unpredictable periods, leaking or stress incontinence, and UTIs have in common. They're all things you might head to the doctors with in your 30s and 40s, and you may well be prescribed all manner of medications to deal with them, including antidepressants, beta blockers, anti-inflammatories, the list goes on. Now, how about if I add hot flushes and night sweats into the occasion? It's quite often only when these two symptoms join the party that we even consider the menopause. Yet all of these massively life-impacting symptoms are potential joys of a time in a woman's life we call the peri-menopause. From the age of 35 to 55 and potentially beyond, or sometimes even earlier, all of these symptoms can be associated with the natural hormonal changes going on in a woman's body at this time of life. The thing is, when this stuff does start to happen in your 30s and 40s, it's very often misdiagnosed. Anna came to me feeling very tired and bloated. She wanted to lose some weight and get some energy back. And when I spoke to her, it turned out she was also seriously concerned about her job. The banter about the blonde moments were just getting beyond a joke, and she began to feel like she was seriously losing her mind. As we dug a little bit deeper, she also confessed that she totally lost her mojo, and her partner actually asked, where's the old Anna gone? When I told her that these were all symptoms of peri-menopause at 40 years old, she didn't believe me. She thought she was just too young. But we soon got to work, bringing not just the old Anna back, but a new and improved one. So in this training, you're going to discover just how and why hormones are wreaking this kind of havoc in your body. And I'm here to reassure you today that it's not something you're doing wrong or something that you're just not doing right or something about your body. Quite often it's natural changes that are going on in your body. But you don't have to sit back and let this shitstorm of symptoms ruin your life as it has done for so many women. Just because the menopause is a natural phase that we all go through doesn't mean that you're powerless, and doesn't mean you have to sit back and let something happen. It doesn't mean you can't do something to mitigate these symptoms and how you're feeling. My symptoms were destroying my mental health. They were seriously affecting my marriage. They were impacting my relationships with friends and family, and my confidence and sanity was seriously going down the pan. Before I realised that I could actually do something about it, as I said, not just sit back and take it. This training is going to show you one thing in particular that you can do today to start controlling a lot of these symptoms. And this one thing can really impact a whole gamut of these problems that are probably ruining your life. It's not one of these secret things or a sexy secret thing that nobody knows about. It's just a massively underestimated and misunderstood thing. We can't fight what happens, but we can massively influence how it impacts our bodies. Life isn't fair. Menopause certainly isn't fair. But just because it isn't fair, it's going to happen regardless. Doesn't mean to say you have no control over it. But you do have to take a different approach to the things that you did when you were younger. You do have to take action. It doesn't need to be complicated, but it does need to be consistent. If you've ever ventured online to look for guidance, there's a good chance you left feeling overwhelmed, to feel confused, and ultimately to feel no better off than when you started looking. And I want today to help you to see through some of this bullshit, to help you get some real clarity and understanding. Today I'm going to share with you some real stories about some real women getting real results, and the simple things that you can start to do today to increase your energy, to sleep better, to get your mojo back, and to shift some of that stubborn fat. Quick disclaimer, as you've seen, I might swear, I might talk a bit fast, I might get a bit carried away, and that's just because I'm absolutely passionate about what I do, and I'm totally pissed off that women are not getting the support and the information they need to help them through this challenging time. This should be a time of growth. This is a time when we as women can put our insecurities behind us, to step into our wisdom, to step into our womanhood, and to kick ass. I want you to own this time, not to feel trapped by it. I want you to get off the diet roller coaster, to deal with the aches and pains that are slowing you down and probably leaving you unable to train. I want to show you how to work with your hormones, not against them. I want to show you what's safe and effective to do, and to give you the confidence to kick ass instead of making excuses. This is not going to involve telling you how to train for hours a week or to eat a restrictive diet. It's not paleo or vegan or fasting, and it's not having to go to the gym for hours and hours to weigh yourself in front of an audience, to suffer any kind of humiliation, guilt or discomfort. As I said, it's not about spending hours online looking at misleading, overhyped, under-delivering, confusing health bullshit spouted by underqualified kids, by ripped men who have no idea how to work with women's bodies, or celebrities selling the next secret formula, fat melting pills and potions, all telling you a million different things and probably overwhelm you and even charging you a fortune. You're not going to pay anything for this training, and I'm not here to sell you a thing. After this presentation, hopefully you'll understand what's going on in your body and why you need to start taking control of this deluge of symptoms. Oh, excuse me, I'm just going to grab some water. Right, let's get to it. Firstly, let's talk hormones. After all, this is where it all stems from. So here's a quick run through of what they actually are, so you can better understand how to get back some hormonal harmony. And talking of hormonal harmony, at the end of this presentation, I'll show you how you can get hold of my free hormonal harmony guide, which will remind you of what we've learned today, as well as giving you some amazing recipes and some resources to get control of your body. So, right, what is a hormone? A hormone is a chemical messenger. Just about every single cell in your body is under the influence of hormones all of the time. So actually, everybody is constantly hormonal, not just women in their menopausal years. There are over 50 different types of hormones sending different types of messages around the body all the time. And the system that produces them, that sends them out and that reabsorbs them is called the endocrine system. The endocrine system is primarily comprised of glands, and they're scattered through the body, each gland being responsible for a particular message that it sends. These messages are then carried around the body by the blood. The endocrine system is one of two messaging systems in the body. The other one is a nervous system controlled by the brain. The nervous system sends its messages by lightning fast neurons, which react almost instantaneously to what's going on. The reactions are short-lived and very localized. Whereas hormones produced by the endocrine system go through the blood, they're slower moving, they target broader areas, and they exert their influence strongly and have longer lasting effects. It's important to note that not just any cell can be affected by just any hormone. Hormones latch on to their target cells by fitting into a specific receptor, a bit like a lock and key. However, some hormones have a master key and the ability to influence a number of different cell types. For example, your thyroid in your throat produces thyroxine. Thyroxine is a master key holder. It stimulates metabolism, which affects almost every cell in your body. Estrogen 2 is a master key holder. It has the ability to interact with almost every single cell in the body. However, just as an alternative for you, follicle stimulating hormone, FSH, is produced in the pituitary gland in the brain, and this is responsible for sexual maturity, and it only binds to specific cells in the testes and ovaries. In fact, it's levels of FSH that can be measured in a blood sample that can help to try and detect how far through the menopause you are, although it's not massively accurate because hormone levels do fluctuate constantly. So the job of all these messages flying around the body is to maintain a steady state of chemical balance known as homeostasis. And attempting to maintain this balance is the job of the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is in the brain. The hypothalamus basically interprets all the signals relating to the body's current condition through its direct connections with the nervous and endocrine systems. It then sends out messages that stimulate actions around the body, either specific functions of particular organs or further hormonal responses in kind of a cascade reaction. Homeostasis is like trying to balance a ball bearing on a moving platform with tiny, tiny corrections happening all the time, constantly. What we eat, how we move, what we think constantly has an impact on this balance. So our messaging systems work bloody hard, pumping out the right messages in the right quantities depending on the signals that it's receiving in. For example, let's take hunger. And this is real hunger as opposed to the kind of eating a biscuit, the habits we have of eating a biscuit or 5 with a cup of tea. Hunger is stimulated by a hormone called ghrelin. I call it grumbling ghrelin because it kind of reminds me of a grumbling tummy when you're hungry. So ghrelin is produced in the stomach and the pancreas. And once that message hits the hypothalamus, you'll head to the fridge. As you eat, stretch receptors, amongst other things, in your stomach stimulates the release of leptin. And leptin will tell your brain you're full. So as you can imagine, if leptin and ghrelin levels aren't balanced and communicating well, you can easily overeat or mess with your satiety signals. So our hormones are constantly changing. And while some reactions are from stimulus around us, some are a natural part of the aging process. As a woman, our hormones fluctuate throughout our life during our monthly cycle, and we've all experienced the symptoms that brings. So it's no surprise that those same hormones will affect our life significantly as levels of them in our bodies decline and change permanently. Now, it's hard to know where to stop and start on the subject of hormones. It's such a vast subject. However, now that you know a little bit more about what they do, let's talk about what's going on during the menopause years. The menopause itself is just a fleeting moment in time. It's just a moment in time. It's the last day of your last period. And you won't actually know this until you're 12 months clear, till you've not had a period for 12 months. So you won't actually know that until you kind of think back and think, oh yeah, I've not had a period for 12 months. But during this training, when I talk about the menopause, I'm talking about the whole period from peri to post-menopause, which can be about a 20-year span, on average from 35 to 55. But most people don't realise that from the age of 35, your hormones will be changing. And all of those symptoms I mentioned at the start can start rearing their ugly heads, but quite often so gradually you don't even notice it, or you just put it down to kind of little things at the time, possibly aging. But 35 to 55, that's a huge chunk of your life. It's a big chunk of your working life, your life as a partner, as a mum, as a daughter, or as a carer. These are often referred to as the sandwich years, time when we're stuck in the middle of caring for parents and caring for kids. It's a pretty stressful time for anyone, let alone a time when our hormones are changing and surreptitiously influencing your physical and mental health. So, what is actually going on? As I've said, we've over 50 types of hormones at work in the body, and they work in conjunction with all the other bodily systems. Nothing ever in the body works in isolation, and it's quite often the site of the perceived issue is not where the issue is at all. And that's another huge subject, referred pain and muscles and all sorts of stuff, but we'll save that for another training. But the main hormones associated with menopause are estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, and cortisol. So let's just run through those hormones a little bit. Estrogen first. Now, most women will be familiar with estrogen. It's known as the hormone that controls a woman's reproductive cycle. But like a busy woman herself, hormones rarely have a single role. They're generally involved in a myriad of functions. Estrogen is also a natural mood booster. It has a part to play in bone density, weight, moods, digestion, temperature regulation, heart health, nerve protection, brain function, skin elasticity, and vaginal lubrication, leading to all those symptoms that we talked about at the start of this presentation. So is it any wonder that we can feel so awful as estrogen levels in the body start to decline? There are actually 3 types of estrogen, but to save this becoming a really complicated presentation, I'm just going to refer to estrogen as a whole. Next is progesterone. Progesterone's main job is preparing the uterus for pregnancy. It also has a mood calming effect and also influences libido. And these two hormones very much work hand in hand. And during the menopause, it's quite often the levels of these and the ratios between them as they decline that affects us a lot and can cause big problems. Next is testosterone. Testosterone is predominantly thought of as a male hormone, a male sex hormone, but women do produce small amounts of testosterone, and we need it. In a woman, it's responsible for the health of the reproductive organs, for bone mass, for libido, for energy, and for mood. And finally, we come to the big one, cortisol. It's a huge subject. This stress hormone impacts all areas of our life. And we talk about stress a lot, especially in more recent years as stress has become far more understood and the impact of stress on our lives. It's almost accepted that we're all stressed all of the time. And most people, just to a greater or lesser degree, and most people acknowledge that they should do something about it, but almost dismiss it as it would be nice to be able to have the time to do something about it, to be able to de-stress, as opposed to a recognition that the kind of chronic stress levels that we live in all the time is literally destroying us. A stressful state should be an occasional situation when cortisol and adrenaline can flood the system to generate a fight or flight response. Because these hormones shut down digestion, they shut down reproduction, they shut down the immune system, because fighting infections, making babies and digesting food aren't important when danger is imminent. However, in today's world of persistent smartphone notifications, financial problems, work issues, FOMO, social media, and even labour-saving devices that just lead us into cramming more stuff into our day, chronic stress is with us all of the time. And typical symptoms of chronic stress include digestive problems, reduced libido, weight gain, increased abdominal fat, we'll talk about more about that in a minute, inflammation, craving salty and sugary foods, poor focus, back pain, headaches, lack of energy, and more. And all of these things clearly have a cascade of physical and mental dysfunctions throughout the body. And as many of these symptoms are also caused by reduced estrogen, we've got a double whammy effect, which causes us more stress, which causes us more issues. And as if that wasn't enough, I've got another spanner in the works for you. Estrogen, as we know, is made in the ovaries. However, the adrenal glands are programmed to produce estrogen in smaller quantities as the ovaries reduce their output. And this becomes significant because as the ovaries' production of estrogen declines, we really do rely on the adrenal estrogen supply. But when those adrenals are busy pushing out stress hormones as their primary function, guess what they don't have time for? So at a time in our life when we need the adrenals at their most resilient, we are arguably in our most stressful time of life. And here's another kicker for you. Estrogen can also be produced and stored by fat cells. So if the body detects that the adrenals aren't available to produce estrogen, and knowing how important the estrogen is, our incredibly efficient body and bodily systems initiate abdominal fat storage. And this type of fat storage is incredibly hard to shift because it's hormonal rather than overindulgence. And by the way, this is another reason why being overweight can be a contributing factor in conditions that arise from excess estrogen in the body, like breast cancer and in endometriosis. And in fact, it's another fact that actually a post-menopausal overweight woman can produce more estrogen than a pre-menopausal skinny woman. That's just a little fact for you. Cortisol can also encourage the body to break down muscle instead of fat when exercising, which will further explain why everything you're trying to do right now might not be working. It's not your fault. So as we hit our 40s, we start this downward spiral of stress, of weight gain, menopause symptoms, all interlinked and all leading back to a lack of body confidence, anxiety, low mood, fatigue, sleep disruption, which leads to comfort eating, drinking, a reduction in exercise, taking medication, which all leads back to poor physical and mental health. And you can just see this spiral of where it goes for us at this time in our life. Right. At this point, I feel like I might have blown your brain a little bit. I know it's an awful lot of stuff to take in. It's an awful lot of talking as well. So, whilst you absorb some of that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story and how my journey through injury, pain, menopause, family, work and life in general has led me to a place where I now feel that I can help you to reach your goals. And then I'm going to share some strategies with you that you can start putting in place literally today to break out of this hormonal roller coaster. So, I grew up in a military family in beautiful Cornwall until I left school myself to join the military. And after 23 incredible years, I made the decision to leave the Royal Air Force in order to spend more time being the mum I felt like I should be to our two beautiful young daughters. And actually that was driven by a very significant event with our au pair at the time. Again, a story for another time. Having discovered a passion for fitness while serving in the Air Force, it wasn't my trade, but I just loved training and the opportunities that it opened up for me whilst I was in the military. So when I came out of the Air Force, I qualified as a personal trainer. And there I specialised in pre- and postnatal exercise, especially having had my two girls. And I was soon running a successful boot camp business for new mums here in Lancaster. At that time, I was feeling invincible and I was keen to expand my fitness business, and I qualified as an insanity instructor. You might have come across insanity by the company Beachbody, crazy, high intensity, high impact routines, which I delivered several times a week. Until one day, whilst I was out on a week-long running and mountain biking holiday, I know that probably doesn't sound like a holiday for a lot of people, but during that holiday, my back went. I could turn this into an epic telling you about that story, but basically after being carted off to casualty, I was diagnosed with a significant disc prolapse. This for me caused the most agonising sciatica, and I found myself gradually in quite a pit of despair because clearly I couldn't coach insanity anymore. My boot camp business went down the pan because of the issues I suffered with back pain, sciatica. My confidence in myself as a trainer went down the pan. My health started to go down the pan. My self-worth and my mindset really took a hit during this time because I felt that if I was suffering from all these issues, I couldn't be a trainer. If I couldn't rehab myself, then how could I help other people to get their health and fitness sorted? At this point, I was 44 and I had absolutely no idea about the menopause, hadn't even given it a second thought. At the time, because I was having such severe sciatic problems and such back pain, I was encouraged to have a discectomy operation. And being military or ex-military at this point, I was like, right, okay, let's get it done. If that's what I need, that's what I'll have. And I got it done without a second thought, really. In fact, I actually had it done quicker because I phoned the hospital and said if there are any cancellations, I'm in. I actually had it done on Christmas Eve. Even though my chiropractic friend was like, oh no, I don't think you should have it done. I was pretty arrogant at the time, and I was like, right, let's just get it done. I was in that much pain that I just felt like I needed to get on with it. What I've since learned about disc prolapse is that I didn't need to have had that surgery. I actually could have rehabbed it. I should have listened to my chiropractic friend. My body, like yours, has evolved over a long period of time, millions of years, to be strong, to repair itself, to move well. And it's also evolved to deal with the menopause. When we start chopping bits out, heavily medicating, overstimulating, undermoving, poorly feeding ourselves, we mess up the cobwebs of symptoms that move together and to support each other. As I said previously, an issue in one area could very much be affecting a seemingly unrelated other area in our bodies. How we move, how we eat, how we think affects every bodily system, as we've already started to discover in this training. Now, you might be listening to this training thinking that you're just too late for that all is lost. You may be thinking it's too late, that your problems can't be fixed. You may be feeling at the mercy of your hormones, your injuries, your niggles, your bodily conditions. But I promise you, you can make things better. It's not too late. You're not too old. I've been on this journey of recovery and rehab and learning, and I've realised that I didn't need to be beasting myself all of the time, that I didn't need to be doing hours of CV work to get in shape, that I didn't need to be following crazy fads to shift the weight that had started to slowly creep on me through my 40s, and especially more recently as I hadn't been working out and doing the boot camp and the training that I had been doing prior to that. The medication isn't always the answer. Quite often it will definitely help, and it is a part of a bigger picture, but quite often medication isn't the only thing you can be doing. And disease can very often be managed really well through lifestyle changes. For me, accepting that I wasn't 20 anymore, that I'm not invincible, that the rules do apply to me, that my body's needs are different now, and that I can still look and feel amazing when I take the right actions was a big revelation. And for me to finally stop chasing health and fitness crazes in the hope of discovering something that I would miss, something that I wasn't doing, or something even that I should be letting my clients try, has been huge. When Georgina contacted me, she knew she needed to do something, but just didn't know where to start. As a busy mum with a great social life, she knew she was carrying around some extra weight and her eating had gotten out of control. She told me her energy was low, that hot flushes were a constant presence and ruining her life, and that night sweats meant that she just was never getting a good night's sleep. She was constantly waking up in the night soaking wet. She joined my 10-week program to get some control back in her life and to be the mum that she wanted to be the wife that she wanted to be. And by the end of the week, she actually lost 10 kilos. That's like just over 1.5 stones. She was having no more hot flushes and the night sweats were gone. She was sleeping better. So because she was sleeping better, she was feeling energetic and more inspired. And she really had her enthusiasm back for life. Her family were enjoying all the new recipes that she got over the 10 weeks. And she was back on the road to being the role model she wanted to be. And more recently, she texted me to let her know that she'd let her sister know some of the advice that she'd got through the course. And her sister had lost 12 pounds in 2 weeks when she came to stay with her on holiday. And she actually texted me the other day. She said she's feeling bloody awesome. And now she's actually more recently contacted me to say she wants to carry on working with me to continue to reach her goals, because there's only so much you can do in a 10-week course, of course. Georgina knew what she should be doing, but like so many of us, she never had the headspace to figure it all out and to actually implement it. She didn't have the time to trawl through the best programs, to know the latest guidance, to wade through the crap and to know what was right for her. And without support and accountability that she got from me and the other ladies in the group that she was in, she never would have. She told me she never would have got the results that she had, the success that she had through the course. And she was actually surprised it worked, and because she'd been really sceptical about online coaching and how it could work for her. Caroline's a busy primary school teacher, and she was she still is a real social butterfly, but she'd steadily put on weight as motherhood, as work, as chores, and life got in the way of her best intentions. She actually contacted me wanting to get back into running, but every time she tried, and she wanted to get back into the Coach to 5K program, she felt niggles flaring up and she struggled to get any consistency. But we soon got to work and she is now confidently running again. But more excitingly, she's taken up surfing and she gets herself in the wonderful Cornish Ocean a couple of times a week with the confidence to have fun with her fellow surfers and, more importantly, her 2 sons. Anyway, back to me. After surgery on my back, ridiculously, I rushed rehab. I took shortcuts. I was still a busy self-employed mum and I had this crazy, impatient, just get it done attitude. So I suffered yet another episode on my back. In the meantime, I developed Achilles tendonitis, which resulted in an Achilles rupture after a run that I stupidly shouldn't have been doing. I shouldn't have been doing it, but I went out on a run and my Achilles ruptured. So again, it took me months to start rehabbing that. And as I was rehabbing that, my other Achilles became inflamed. And I just couldn't break out of this cycle of niggles, of injury. And to be honest, my mental and physical health was just at an all-time low, probably. And I had absolutely no idea that the menopause and my hormones could very well be a significant factor in these problems. Perhaps you can relate to this. Perhaps things have been slowly getting worse for you, or you feel you just can't break out of a rut. Perhaps you just feel like you just don't know what's going on in your body. Oh, excuse me. Another glass of water. It's a lot of talking. So finally, when hot flushes, crazy moods, lack of energy, and night sweats, particularly night sweats, when they really started to kick in earnest about 2 years ago, I suddenly thought, is this a menopause? Could this be the menopause? So, like I do, and I love to do, I got out the books and I started researching. And as I learned more, I came to understand so many things about myself, about my body, about female bodies, and about hormones. And I certainly realised I was in full peri-menopause mode. After feeling invincible for so many years in the REF and having felt so awful for the previous 5 years, I finally began to understand the roles my hormones were playing, and that instead of supporting my body the last 5 years, supporting the changes that were going on, I'd totally taken it for granted and pretty much abused it. During this time as well, we'd actually moved house 4 times and taken on a huge renovation in this listed building, this current home that I'm currently in. So to say the levels of stress that I was going through at this time was through the roof is pretty much an understatement. Anyway, I could go on and on about my tale of woe, but what I can say is that since I've immersed myself in hormones and understanding the hormones, understanding nutrition, and understanding this big picture of how this whole puzzle works, things are really starting to just fall into place. This puzzle is starting to take shape. My body is improving. I do still have work to do because I did do quite a lot of damage to myself, and my mental health as well, but that's improving. But more importantly, my clients' results are improving. Now that I understand, I can impart all this information into the results my clients are getting, and they are getting fabulous results, especially on my 10-week course, but also in the one-to-one coaching as well. I see the proof over and over again that we need to take a different approach in our 40s and 50s, maybe even our 30s too. Social media is so full of unrealistic, unachievable, airbrushed images that make us feel frankly shit. They make us feel inadequate, lost, guilty and overwhelmed. We're told we need to count calories, to weigh food, to log our sins to get results. We see adverts showing us we need to just dance for 20 days and years of stubborn fat will disappear. We excitedly start leaping around to Joe Wicks, who I think is awesome by the way, but his workouts are not designed for out-of-shape hormonal women. So then we get injured, and Joe Wicks-itis was a real thing through lockdown, believe me. All this while dealing with the unavoidable hormonal changes that will leave you feeling wiped out. Normal, busy, middle-aged women need strategies that are designed to take changing hormones into account. Now, there's a number of strategies I coach. The number one strategy has got to be to reduce stress. Cortisol causes such huge problems in our bodies. We've talked about it a little bit. We're going to talk about it a little bit more. I can't take away your financial worries. I can't change your family situation. I can't remove an irritating boss, but I do want to show you how nutrition and lifestyle can make a huge, significant difference. There are dozens of foods that can help with your hormones, and lots of stress-reducing activities and mindset stuff that we talk about on my 10-week course. But today, let's focus on the one bodily mechanism that can influence you and impact you right now. As I said at the start, this is one thing that will impact so many of the issues we face, and this is one thing that can have such a huge impact on our well-being. And this one thing is, drum roll, your blood sugar levels. Balancing your blood sugar is possibly the single most important thing you can do that will support your adrenals and create a cascade of enduring benefits that will significantly improve your health. Because to balance your blood sugar, you will need to do a number of things. Now, I'm sorry this might not be the revelation you're expecting, but let me explain, and you'll see why it is absolutely fundamental. I'm sure you've heard about blood sugar. It's bandied around a lot with people reaching for a Mars bar when they feel lightheaded, but I'll tell you when that doesn't work in just a sec. Blood sugar needs to be maintained within a certain range, and if we go above or below it, the body initiates an emergency response. It's good at doing that. Normal response to increasing blood sugar involves a release of insulin to clear out the sugar and send it off to the liver where it is dealt with. So we're coming up here. Insulin, forgive my writing. So it's sent off to the liver, where it's either stored for quick release or it's stored as fat. If you're suddenly flooding your system with a lot of sugar in whatever form, insulin is not able to calculate how much sugar it needs to remove to restore the balance, so it just kind of hoovers it all up. So in a short space of time, your blood sugar crashes. The higher the insulin spike, the bigger the sugar, i.e. the bigger the sugary snack, the bigger the blood sugar crash. Low blood sugar causes you to feel dizzy, shaky, headachy, anxious, desperate for pick-me-up. Sound familiar? So you're reaching for that Mars bar. However, because at this point you're in a sugar crash, the body perceives an emergency. So the adrenals are signalled to release cortisol and adrenaline, which will send a message to the liver to immediately release that stored energy that it has to get some sugar back in the bloodstream. But at the same time, cortisol also releases powerful cravings for something that your body knows will give it a quick fix, like sugary food, refined carbs, a cup of coffee, maybe a glass of wine. So boom, the liver is releasing sugar, you're tucking into a sugary snack, blood sugar spikes. Boom! And this roller coaster starts all over again. This boom and bust happens all day long. Stress hormones are on override and there's no time to produce estrogen. If you then head to bed with high blood sugar, so at 10 o'clock about here, when you're heading to bed, as insulin does its job, blood sugar drops, stress hormones get to work, and hey presto, it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, you're wide awake, and the physical and mental stress caused by lack of sleep just adds to your adrenal overload. So if you take away just one thing today, it's the need to balance your blood sugar, because to do this, you need to eat food that is harder to digest. So you want to be hanging around here, giving your body a slow and steady release of energy that will keep you satisfied until your next meal. I talk about this in all of my courses, but the first step is to eat quality protein at every meal, including at breakfast. Protein is harder to digest, so it hangs around in your system for longer, maintaining that blood sugar balance. And secondly, eat some complex carbs, because these are high in fibre, which also release more slowly into the system than refined carbs. Refined carbs will give you that quick insulin spike. But the trick is to eat a combination of these at every meal or snack. Have a look at the meals you're already eating and work out what improvements you can make. And don't look at what you can take out, look at what you can add or swap. Swap white processed carbs for whole meal, throw in a handful of nuts or seeds, or where possible, add extra veg. It's hard to overeat extra veg. Very, very easy to overeat pasta. Start by making small changes. Do them consistently and you will see results. This isn't a quick fix, this is lifestyle changes. It doesn't mean that you can never have cake or biscuits, but how about eating them with a meal rather than between meals? How about as a treat and not a daily occurrence? I know it's a lot easier said than done though. Overcoming years of powerful habit loops is not easy. Again, I go into this in more detail in the 10-week course. Because it's not easy, and because we're humans are designed and hardwired to take the simplest, most energy-saving course of action. Because we're humans, we're always looking for quick fixes and to blame our circumstances. Anyway, let's get back to hormones. When you start to make these dietary changes, not only will your blood sugar start to balance out, but the nutrients in these foods you're eating, these nutrients in the food themselves will have massive impact on how you're feeling. You're starting to give your body what it needs, vitamins and minerals it needs for essential bodily functions. Also, phytoestrogens in plant food mimic our own estrogen, which further helps to balance hormones and reduce hot flushes. More leafy greens will give you a boost of magnesium, which helps to calm the nervous system and to regulate stress, and increasing fibre will support the important elimination of old estrogen to maintain that hormonal harmony. A focus on protein will support your iron levels, and your gut will massively thank you for the increase in diversity of plant bacteria essential for health. Now, the health of your microbiome, the climate of bacteria in your gut, is a fascinating subject and one that I'm absolutely passionate about. A huge subject, far too vast to go into today, but again, during my 10-week course, Frazzled to Fabulous, we spend a 4-week section in the middle of that course doing a gut reset, which is absolutely fundamental to the results that the ladies get going through that course. It's hard to know, like hormones, like nutrition, like gut, all of these are enormous subjects, and it's hard to know when to stop talking about it all. As you can see, all of the body works together, and we barely scratch the surface of a few key things here. But I'm conscious that time's getting on. This has turned into quite a long presentation already. But for me, it's so important that women know what's going on in their bodies. But I'm very aware it can get complicated and very sciencey very quickly. But when you have some grasp of how and why, for me, it's so much easier to do the doing of it all. You may already know some of this stuff, but if you're as busy as some of the women I coach, or you've never stopped to think about your hormones, like me not so long ago, hopefully some of this has helped you to understand things a little bit better. After all, you don't know what you don't know. If you're someone who's never followed a health program of any sort, but you're conscious that you know you need to be taking better care of yourself, or if you're someone who's spent a lifetime of yo-yo dieting and fitness fads, and you're fed up of this roller coaster, or maybe you're someone who's been fit in the past, but life and kids and family or circumstances, or even pain and injury has led you away from your goals, or perhaps maybe you think you've heard it all before, or if you've been a member of slimming clubs, online programs, a local gym or a boot camp, but nothing seems to be working for you, or maybe you're stuck on a plateau, maybe I can help you finally to get going again. After 23 years of training, 8 years of studying, 51 years of being a woman, 18 years of being a wife, 13 years of being a mum, and now dealing with a menopause myself, having coached hundreds of women and more recently specialised in the menopause, I know what works. It's not a shred, it's not a magic diet, it's not a million crunchies or hours of CV work. Whilst actually these strategies will work, a lot of them do work for a short space of time, they don't work for any length of time. They're not real life, they're not long-term strategies. They're very often very generic, and quite often they just don't need the full nutritional needs of the people who sign up to them. There's no perfect moment to start taking better care of yourself. It's just a decision you make right now. Right now is all you've got. The sooner you get stuck into making it work now with what you've got, the sooner you can step into the healthy, balanced life that we all crave. I'm a huge believer of things falling into place when you're ready for them, but again, I could go off on another huge tangent there, so I'll save that for another time. So are you ready to start making some lifestyle changes? You've seen the nutritional strategies. You've seen some nutritional strategies in this presentation that will work. They're part of a toolbox of strategies, but you can start to implement them straight away. As I said, this is just scratching the surface. When I asked my Facebook group what people would like to know about, there were lots more questions, and I'm afraid I can't answer them all today. We'd be here forever. Conscious this has been a long session. If you're like most of the women that come to me who struggle to put themselves first, or can't find the best time to know what to do, to know what exercises to do, to what food is best, how to cook for the family, you may well yourself be on that boom and bust of trying new things, getting excited, getting overwhelmed, falling off the wagon, just like the blood sugar going up and down, never yourself getting into a sustainable routine. Many of my clients that come to me are surprised when I tell them they actually need to do less. When I say that their changing bodies will reward them with more when they slow down, you should see the relief on their faces when I tell them just to trust a proven process. Sometimes it can be hard to hand over decisions to someone else, but when they do and they become accountable to me and a team of people, results quickly start to add up. So if you'd like to know more about working with me, my 10-week Frazzled to Fabulous program, I'd love to jump on a call with you and to see if we're a good fit for each other. I believe there's a coach out there for everybody, and I might not be the right one for you, but if nothing else, perhaps I can give you some more strategies that can help you on your way. I know life happens and things change, but please, if you're serious about turning your life around and having some clarity about the way forward and taking some action, please book a call with me and take make time to take that call. Make it at a time when you're not on the school run, when you're not in the middle of something, when you're not just about to start something. Of course, there's always unavoidable things, but do make time to schedule that call and make time to take the call. We'll spend about 30, maybe even 40 minutes, possibly even longer, talking about how you can put some of these strategies into action yourself, and perhaps potentially even working with me going forwards. As I said, it's going to be me taking this call, another human being, a busy, self-employed mum, and I schedule time in my day to take these calls. So please do bear that in mind when you're making time to make the call. So there should be a button below. Hit that button and you can schedule a call with me. You're also very welcome to email me at jenny@gohealthandfitness.co.uk. Oh, and as I said at the start, you'll also see on this page a link to download my free Hormonal Harmony Guide, which will go through some of the points we've made today and also include some lovely recipes that you can start balancing out your blood sugar with. Thank you for sticking with me through to the end. I'm off to have some lunch. Hopefully I'll be talking with some of you in the next few days. Take care and good luck with your menopause, pre-menopause, post-menopausal journey. Cheers.